seated on your mat, or if you don't have a mat, on the floor. If you have some blocks and blankets, you can bring those nearby too. When I'm doing an evening practice, I like to light a candle, so just come to seated. And lean forward a little bit. And then lean back on your seat. And we'll bring our hands face down onto our legs. And just focus on the grounding downward current of energy as you breathe out. And just allow some of the stimuli and nervous system activity, energy, root down towards the ground. And no matter what kind of information you've acquired today, we're going to take a couple of breaths, and on the exhale, you're just going to experience a sense of emptying, as if you could pull the plug at the bottom of you and let things effortlessly drain into the ground. And then we'll just start in child's pose, so you can come to all fours. And bring your hips back towards your heels. If that's too much, you can stick a blanket underneath your knees or behind your calves. And just sit the hips back towards the heels and bring the forehead towards the floor. And if you have tension in your upper body, you can bring your hands back by your feet. And allow the breath to be slow and steady. Take a moment to notice the pauses in between your breaths. And then we'll reach the arms forward and we'll walk them to the right a little bit. And then you'll get a stretch through your left side. And if you've had a really active day, you're going to walk your hands over to the left. You want to pay a little bit more attention to the exhale. And if it's a little bit longer than the inhale, then it will activate the system in your body that governs relaxation. And then we'll bring the hands through center. And we'll open the knees apart if they're together. And we'll twist our child's pose. We'll bring the left arm underneath the right. And you can rest your head. Or if you want a little more traction on the back of the left shoulder, you can put your right palm on top of your left palm and gently press away. And then we'll return to center. And we'll switch sides, right arm under left arm. And return to center. And we'll come up to all fours. We'll just slide the forearms or the elbows forward. Keep the hips over the knees. And then we'll bring our heart towards the ground. So I like to bring my hands in prayer and really stretch through my shoulders. And if it's too far to touch the ground, you can put a block under your chest. And then we'll come to all fours. We'll just do a few cat-cows to just kind of warm up the spine, especially if you've been sitting a lot today. So we'll just arch the back, lift the tailbone, feel it move all the way up through the crown of the head as you breathe in. And then initiating the movement from the tailbone, draw it down as you stretch through the back of the shoulders, relax the neck, forehead, lifting the tailbone, breathing in. Drawing the tailbone down, breathing out. come to all fours. And if downward dog doesn't work for you, for your wrists or any part of you, you just stretch back into child's pose. Otherwise, we'll curl the toes under and we'll root into the hands to lift up through the hips. And you want to be aware of not locking out the elbow joints so you don't create tension in the upper body. And it's not so important that you straighten your legs. You would rather keep the length in the back. And then if you want to stretch through the back of the legs, bend one knee deeply and stretch the other heel towards the ground. And then bend that knee and stretch the other heel towards the ground. And then we'll bend both knees, stretch up through the back. Exhale the heels towards the ground. You never have to reach there though. And then we'll come forward into the top of a push-up, just to bring our attention into our belly. Since it's nighttime, I'm going to lower my knees. Less effort, but I can still bring my attention into my belly. So I like to think of expanding and gathering all the scattered pieces of me. And then the exhale brings them right back into my center. So I'll take one more breath here. And then exhale, we'll bend the elbows and we'll lower down to our belly. And then we'll uncurl the toes. And you want to press into the top of all 10 toes. And then root the pubic bone and then lift up into a low cobra. You'll feel the back strengthening and lengthening simultaneously. And then exhale, roll it back down. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, lowering down. One more time. Exhale, lower. So I tend to carry a lot of tension in my upper body, so we'll do a couple of rounds of these cobras. We'll bring the fingertips out to the side and a little bit behind the shoulders. And then lift up into a low cobra. Let the back of the head float up just a little bit. And then dip the left shoulder. Move the head over towards the right shoulder. And then we'll come to center and you'll feel both shoulder blades come together. And then we'll dip the right shoulder. And then we'll come to center. And we'll do that one more time. And then one other thing I like to do for upper body tension is come to my belly and stretch the right arm out to the right. And if this ends up being too much, know that you can lower your hand, turn the palm up, or leave the arm out of it altogether. But otherwise, it's about at the level of the brow, and then you turn your head the other way, and then you roll over the right chest and bend the left knee and put it on the floor behind the right leg. And we'll roll. Uh-oh. Don't knock your candle over. And then I'll roll to the belly and stretch the left arm out and roll over, bending the right knee, putting the right foot on the floor. And then we'll come back to center. And we'll either bring the hands back by the thighs or interlace the fingers behind us if that's accessible for your shoulders. Same thing, root the top of the feet, including the pinky toes and the pubic bone, and then lift the heart. So you don't want to straighten the elbows all the way. It kind of locks out the energy in the upper body. Keep it a little bit bent, and then you'll feel more internally. So you want to breathe. You'll feel this stimulates the nervous system. But then as you exhale, imagine you just breathe down through your belly. And then exhale, release. And we'll press back into child's pose. We'll just take a breath here with the knees together to stretch the back. Now we're going to come up to seated. And for a lot of us, it's not super comfortable to sit on the floor. But for most of us, it's helpful if you elevate the hips. So you just fold up a blanket and kind of sit on the edge of it. And we'll start with our left knee bent and our right leg straight. And we're going to do a side bend. So we're going to twist towards the left knee and reach the left arm. And then we'll side bend over towards the straight right leg. So if you want to support your neck, you can put a block under your elbow and rest your head on it. Because this is the yin portion, it's a little more passive in the muscular effort and longer holds. And that enables us to work with the fascial network of the body, which takes more time, less stress. We'll take 2 more breaths here. And then we'll come up. I always like to pause. Sometimes the most interesting is feeling the effects of coming out of a pose. So you can either twist to the left with your bottom on the ground, or you can lift up onto your left knee and reach your right arm and get a side stretch. And then we'll lower down. We'll slide that bent left knee in front of us and put the right knee on top. And then we'll scoot our hips over to the left a little bit so that that right sitting bone will reach the ground. And then we'll bring the right hand behind. So if you have to slouch to put it back there, just stick it on the block. And you'll just cradle your right leg with your left hand. So you'll use that back hand to root down and lengthen up through the spine. And then we'll gently twist around that central spine as you exhale. So the inhale roots down through the back hand, lifts up through the crown of the head. And the exhale, moving the ribs and the belly and back muscles around that. And we'll take 2 or 3 more breaths. And then we'll come back to center. We'll cross the right knee the rest of the way on top of the left knee. So if your knees don't like this, you can just cross your right shin on the floor in front. Or if your bottom knee doesn't like this, you can straighten that leg. And if the top knee is a little bit bothersome, then you can pat it. But you don't want to force your body into a posture. You want to make it work for your body. So right knee on top, then we'll reach our left arm up towards the ceiling. And we'll bend the left elbow, and the right hand can come up. And if you want to reach underneath for your shirt or your fingertips or use a block, you can, but it's enough to just bring your hand to your elbow. And we'll take a couple of breaths here. So for the yin portion, your participation is less effortful and more like your attention is just swimming around with the sensations in your body. And if possible, you kind of want to relax the judgy mind about, oh, this is a good sensation or a bad sensation. And just notice, say, oh, this is happening. So I have tension here. So it feels like this. And you just keep including it. On the next exhale, we'll see how it feels to release the arms. Sometimes the body has some organic movement, and you just let it. And then we're going to fold forward. So you can put 2 blocks and then a bolster and have a little shelf to fold into. Or you can have a couple of blocks. If this ends up being too much pressure on the knees, you just roll down onto your back and hug your knees into your belly in a reclined position. So when moving into these longer held forward poses, you want to keep the weight back in the hips and then fold forward until you feel an edge in your body, right? Until you feel some resistance in your body. And then you want to hang out with it. So instead of trying to make it go away or fix it, you just count that edge as your opportunity to pause. And then we just hang out there. for some time, probably about 2 minutes. So if the sensation gets intense, then you just back out or come out. And if it organically recedes, then you can allow yourself to go deeper until the next edge. We'll take 2 more breaths here. And then use your hands to help yourself up. And cross the legs. And then we'll do the other side. So we'll bend the right knee and straighten the left leg, but you don't have to straighten it all the way. You can keep it bent if that's easier for your back or your hamstring. And then we'll twist towards the right knee and we'll reach the right arm, and then we'll side bend over to the left. And you don't have to go very far. I like to support my head. And for some people it doesn't work for them to keep their arm overhead. The shoulder doesn't have that ability, so you can keep the right hand behind your back also, or down by your side. Take 2 more breaths here. And we'll slowly come up. And you can either twist with your seat on the ground, or you can lift up onto your knee and get a side stretch or a back bend. And then we'll come down. And we'll slide the bent knee in front and the left knee up towards the ceiling, and then scoot your hips a little bit to the right and we'll bring the left sitting bone to the ground, and then we'll bring our left hand behind and we'll twist to the left. One more breath here. And then see what it feels like to unwind back to center. And we'll let the left knee cross on top of the right knee, or you can just put the left shin on the floor in front of the right shin. And then we'll reach the right arm up, and we'll bend the right elbow, left hand up or under. to release the arms. And then once again, keeping the weight back in the hips, bringing a couple of blocks, or a block and a bolster in front. Remember, you can do this on your back. You'll start to come forward until you feel an edge of sensation. So you want to be able to soften the muscles in the longer held poses. So if it's too intense, then your muscles will have to constrict in order to keep you safe. So for this portion, you really want to soften the muscles. You want a feeling of surrender in your body. And you can't really speed up this part, so I suggest holding the poses at this point for like 2 to 3 minutes, and that will really help to downregulate the nervous system. We'll take 2 more breaths here. And then we'll bring our hands to the ground and lift up. It's kind of intense coming out of longer held hip openers. So a couple of options. We can come to a seated meditation and then get ready for bed, because sometimes if you come full out, you're just going to want to go to sleep now. But we'll just do a 1-minute meditation, and then you have the option of going into Shavasana, and you can set a timer if you need to make sure you don't fall asleep there. I often fall asleep on my yoga mat. So we'll come to seated and just see how that feels. And instead of getting mad at your body if there's certain tense or injured parts, if you could just practice including them as if they're the parts that need your tenderness the most, and your inclusion, right? Even your love. So it doesn't mean you have to like the tension that you have, but just, hey, I feel you. Thank you for being able to communicate with me through sensation and let me know where you need attention, because this body is pretty amazing. And then one practice I like to do at the end of the day is because sometimes when our mind keeps going, we think about the things that we could have done better or that we need to still do. Is just take a moment to think of a few things that you did well today. the Shavasana. My favorite Shavasana, which you don't have to have all this stuff, but I highly recommend investing in some sandbags because they're my favorite. Is to put 2 blocks with a little bit of space in between, but if you put too much space, it'll kind of sag in the middle. And then put your bolster up top. And then I usually like to have a pillow on my head and a blanket to cover me up. So I have everything nearby. And if you don't have a bolster and blocks, you can just stick your calves up on your bed or the couch. And then, if you have sandbags, these are like 10 pounds each. It's amazing. You just kind of weigh yourself down. And sometimes I hold tension in my low back, and this is so good. And then you gotta get creative here. That doesn't work out so good. And get all cozy. And just allow yourself to feel the support of the ground, and just allow the ground to yield to your body, and whatever worries and maybe even hopes you have right now, just turn the palms up and let the universe have them for a few minutes. I've come to believe that the most responsible thing we can do is to take time to step out from underneath all of it and do nothing.